because for the last 2 days, the transfer portal took off for the Christmas holidays as well. There's been very little news out of the portal, but what I wanted to look at was LSU's biggest remaining needs in the portal, because coming into the offseason, everyone said, hey, cornerback, tight end, O-line, edge rusher, and safety were probably the 5 positions of need. You've done a really good job filling most, not all, of those positions. Look at cornerback, you bring in Jakeem Jackson, you bring in Mansour Delane from Virginia Tech. You pair that with DJ Pickett, who's already practicing with the team in bowl practices. He looks like he's possibly a day one starter. Aiden Andine, who wound up being the highest rated cornerback in the state of Louisiana. You get Ashton Stamps back. You're going to be fine at the corner position. You bring in all this talent, and you have Corey Raymond back in the fold to coach these guys up and get back that DBU moniker that we all love to talk about, right? As far as tight end goes, I still think you need another tight end. Now, you bring in Bauer Sharp, Cousin Bauer is what I like to call him, over there from Oklahoma. Now, his numbers weren't eye-popping, but that was an offense that really struggled, especially in the passing game. He was actually the Sooners' leading receiver this past year. I think you need to add another tight end because you have Bauer Sharp, and you have true freshman J.D. LaFleur coming in. That's essentially all you have. Now you have some walk-ons. You have Gabe Leonard. You have Giovanni Peterson, who both of those guys are probably going to play a lot in this bowl game, but you need another tight end. However, as far as an everyday starter, you may have found that guy in Bauer Sharp. So while it's important, I don't think it's at the top of your needs. You also need another offensive lineman. You did a really good job of bringing in Braylon Moore, the center from Virginia Tech. He was one of the hottest names in the transfer portal as far as offensive line. And look, speaking of Hunt Palmer, Hunt sent us a station survey, one Saints leaning, one LSU leaning. The LSU one was, who do you think the biggest transfer portal addition is for LSU this offseason? I went with Braylon Moore because of the flexibility I think it gives you on the offensive line. You put Braylon Moore at center, you put DJ Chester at guard, because I thought Chester improved a lot as far as technique, fundamentals, his blocking, but the snap infractions were just too much, and it did not really get better as the season goes along. And he was a guard coming into LSU. He didn't play a ton of center in high school. They moved him there because they saw some flashes in the offseason. They had a big hole to fill at center, and they plugged him in there. Braylon Moore has played center at a high level of college football for multiple years now. I think he slides in there to center. If Mabinga can continue to improve, you have him on one side, you have DJ Chester on the other, or can Carius Kern, can Solomon Thomas, can these guys come in? Now, both of them are projected more as a tackle, but they could always move into guard as well. I think you need a tackle as far as offensive line goes. There's a few names out there that we have looked at, and one of them, unfortunately, is trending elsewhere, and that would be Josh Thompson from Northwestern. He's a guy that has been a hot commodity. He's 6'5", he's 300 pounds. Brad Davis and this LSU staff haven't left a lot to the imagination. They have been after Josh Thompson from the get-go. Anytime I look at a guy, I don't care what they were ranked out of high school. I don't even care what their portal ranking is. I always look at their offer list. For Josh Thompson, LSU, Michigan, Michigan State, Ohio State, Tennessee were his top 5. That guy can play football on my team any day, because all of those recruiting staffs are not wrong about this guy. It seems, though, that Josh Thompson is trending towards the Volunteers. It looks like he's going to go to Tennessee. But you had recently brought in another offensive lineman from Washington State, and I apologize. I am going to butcher his name. I'm going to do it the best I can. Fa'alili Fayamo, the big tackle from Washington State. Look, he's 6'5". He's 310 pounds. He's a guy that has played a lot of football for Washington State. He was the number 2 rated offensive tackle in this year's NCAA transfer portal. If the staff is looking to make a splash, literally there may not be a bigger splash than this guy right here. He just completed his redshirt junior campaign, so he's got 1 year of eligibility remaining. Again, a guy that has played a lot of football. You're losing 4 starters on that offensive line. Will Campbell, Garrett Dellinger, Miles Frazier, Emory Jones. All 4 of those players are gone. DJ Chester, the lone returning starter, probably not even going to play center. Paul Mabinga, he played the last 4 games for you, and while it was up and down, he got a little bit better as the season went along. But overall, you got about 2 guys that have played significant snaps, DJ Chester and Paul Mabinga. So even with Braylon Moore coming in, you need a tackle. And I think they're going to go after Fayamu from Washington State. They've already brought him in for a visit. I think it's full court press on this guy, especially with Josh Thompson trending elsewhere. Now, a position they did a great job with was edge rusher, because you were actually really good at edge rusher this year. I thought the combination of Bo Davis and Kevin Peoples did a really nice job of filling that spot, because you had Braden Swinson and Savion Jones, who were your starters a year ago, but the jump that both of those guys made under Kevin Peoples was incredible. I mean, it seemed like big moment after big moment, Braden Swinson was going to come up with a sack, and Savion Jones, he was a guy that made some plays, but it was stuff that didn't show up on the stat sheet. That was flipped this year as well. He had an excellent season. Both of those guys are gone. So you have to fill 2 edge rushing positions, and you lose Deshaun Womack in the transfer portal. He's going to play at Oxford for Lane Kiffin. Gabriel Relaford was a true freshman on last year's team. He showed some flashes. So you have him back. That's 1 edge rusher. What does LSU do? They go get 3 experienced edge rushers. You get Jamari Butler from Nebraska, Jack Pyburn from Florida, who I really like. It's just, you have done such a good job on this coaching staff at filling your needs, doing whatever you can to fill the spot of the guys that, when you have a big hole on this roster. The biggest hole remaining for the LSU Tigers, I believe, is the safety position. And honestly, guys, when you look at the transfer portal, there's not a ton of big-time safeties left. Because, again, we just talked about it, the edge rushers. Patrick Payton, Florida State. Jack Pyburn, Florida. Jamari Butler from Nebraska. You did a great job of filling a massive hole on your roster. Safety, you haven't done that yet. And when you look at the transfer portal, a lot of the top names have signed elsewhere. Dylan Thineman from Purdue was a guy that everybody wanted. Well, he's going to Oregon. Zachariah Poyser was a name we heard early on for LSU. They brought him in for multiple visits. He was a guy that was pretty high on their list. Last week, he decided he was going to sign with Miami. As far as guys that are still out there, there's not a ton for you. You do have Jalen Stroman from Virginia Tech. Look, there's familiarity there. His teammates already coming in. And you look, he did not play a ton this past season, but he's played a lot of football for Virginia Tech. As a matter of fact, coming into the season, he was projected as a day 2 draft pick by Matt Zenit. So basically a second or a third round pick at the safety position. Again, he didn't play a lot this past season, but when he's been on the field, he's been a productive player for Virginia Tech. He's been there for 4 years. He's got a year of eligibility remaining. The other guy I want to look at is Jalen Catalon. And for LSU fans, you may remember that name. He was at Arkansas for a number of years. This will actually be Jalen Catalon's 7th season of college football. Needless to say, he's played a lot of games. He's played in 43 games. His biggest issue, along with Jalen Stroman, he's had multiple season-ending injuries. But when he's played, he's been excellent. His best season at Arkansas was 2020, the COVID year that did not count. He had 99 tackles, 3 interceptions, 2 tackles for a loss. The next season, he only played in 6 games at Arkansas because of injury. Then he went back to Arkansas again, only 1 game because of injury. Then he goes to Texas. Guess what? Another injury. But this past season, he was at UNLV. He had a full year of college under his belt. He didn't have one of those season-ending injuries like he had the past 2 years prior. He played in all 14 games, and in my opinion, he had the best year of his college career. 96 tackles, 5 tackles for a loss, 2 sacks, 5 interceptions. I always caution myself to get, fired up about these guys who can't seem to stay healthy. But with a guy like Catalon, who's played as much football as he possibly has, when he's on the field, he's just such a productive player. I mean, I read you the 2 seasons where he played double-digit games, 99 tackles, 96 tackles, and he combined for 8 interceptions in those 2 seasons. The guy can flat out play football, and he's done it at the SEC level because he was at Arkansas for 4 seasons. I think that's a guy LSU may look at. And look, is he going to be your everyday starter? I don't know with injury history like that. But look, you've moved JV and Toviano to safety. You still have Deshaun Spears. CJ Jim Coyley's coming in, the freshman from the recruiting class that LSU's really high on. He's got the frame to play right away. So, look, maybe this is going to be a safety by rotation type of deal. A guy we had heard about in recent weeks was Tawfiq Byard. He's a South Florida transfer. He had a really good career there. He announced that he's going to Colorado, which Look, Deion Sanders, sure, that's fine. Choosing Colorado over LSU is wild to me. What a decision. But he's going to go play for the Buffaloes and Deion Sanders. So he's out of the boat as well. I mean, right now, again, there's not a ton of big-time names that haven't already signed elsewhere. I mean, we talked about Cole Wisniewski from North Dakota State, right? He was 6'4", 218. He was a guy we discussed. He's at Texas Tech. Devontae Smith left Alabama. He's going to Notre Dame. Jerron Manning, he was at Old Dominion. He's going to Mississippi State. Adrian Wilson was a guy we talked about from Washington State. He's at Arizona State. You get the point. Devin Turner from Northwestern. He's at Baylor. You're kind of at the bottom of the barrel right now. But I got to tell you could do a lot worse than Jalen Catalon. I know that the injury history is quite extensive, but when he's been on the field, he's been a productive player. And maybe LSU is playing the long game, though. That's another possibility. Maybe they're waiting for a guy that is currently in the college football playoff. His team hasn't been eliminated yet. They want to see what they do after the season. You also have the spring window coming up for the transfer portal. Maybe there's a guy they're waiting on. Whether they're waiting on him, they're trying to get one of the guys out of the portal, you got to do something because you have to fill that massive hole in your roster right now.
Hey, thanks for watching Hunt on LSU. Before you get out of here, do us a couple of favors. Hit that like button, leave your comments below, and subscribe to the channel for all your Fighting Tiger football talk. See you next time.